Welcome back at the Lodge with Jim and Michelle, a podcast celebrating life spent in the great outdoors. Whether you're an angler, a hunter, trapper, or someone just enjoying an active outdoors lifestyle, this show is for you. Join Jim Broughton and Michelle Sherman as they discuss outdoor news, opinions, events, and much more occurring over recent weeks. It's time now to pull up a chair, pour a favorite beverage, gather close to the campfire, and kick up those tired feet and relax, because you're back at the Lodge.
Welcome to this edition to Back at the Lodge with Jim and Michelle.
Hey.
Jim Broughton, and that is Michelle Sherman.
Hello. I was just looking at the WeatherBug app because we're in a little weather situation.
You know, we've had a lot of weather this summer so far here in Minnesota, where there's been stuff coming through. We just missed a storm here that went kind of off to our north, but we've got another one bearing down on us here in probably the next 20 minutes or so.
Jim was nice enough to let me park my car in the garage.
Yeah, so if you hear some thunder or anything like that, it's just that the world is all rumbly outside today. Well, Michelle,
yes.
We haven't gotten together too much here recently. You've been a busy gal. I understand you are now one of the board of director members of the POMA, which is the Professional Outdoor Media Association. Tell us about that.
Well, there was 4 empty spots, and they nominated 4 people, and we all got in.
You know, and I actually even voted for you.
Did you?
I did.
I appreciate that.
I thought the 4 best people won. Actually, tell us who are the other members that got in with you?
Lars Drysdale. I always don't know how to pronounce his last name. He used to be with NRA Blog. Now he's with NRA Public Affairs.
Okay.
Ryan, and I can't think of his last name, from Browning. Sorry, Ryan. Ryan actually loaned me $1, and Freddie from Amaland loaned me $1, so I'd have enough. I didn't have enough cash to buy a card for a gun raffle. You know how buy a deck of cards, right? And I think it was like $10. I had $8. So Ryan Busey. So Ryan loaned me $1. Freddie loaned me $1 so I could get a card. And wouldn't you believe it? I won the gun.
You won the gun on loan money?
So Ryan and Freddie both are able to shoot the gun one time a year. Is what we agreed upon.
Well, what kind of a gun did you win?
A little Remington. I can't think of it, but it's a little concealed carry, a 380.
Oh, it's a little
Remington. Yeah, a little Remington 380.
Okay.
So yeah, so that was
cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it was.
That's exactly how that kind of stuff happens.
Oh, you knew it. You knew it. Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Well, great.
Yeah, but it was a good POMA conference. We were out in Kalispell, Montana.
I bet it was just gorgeous out there, huh?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that one of the struggles that they run into is that you want to have it in a place where people want to go, but then when you do that, you will lose people because they want to experience all the things that place has to offer.
Oh, sure.
So, some of the sessions during the afternoon or even in the morning, because while we were there, the pass for the Road to the Sun in the national park was closed because of all the snow, but while we were there, it actually opened. So once word got out that the pass was opened and you could get up to the very peak, then we really lost people. So it's a catch-22, because if you have it at like a Hyatt in downtown Atlanta, well, who's going to come? But...
Yeah, I certainly see that. Do you think that has changed over the years, though, or has it always been that way?
I think, for me, I can speak about me personally, it has changed over the years where I want to go to the conference and I want to network and I want to mingle and I want to go to some of the sessions, but I also am going to the conference because it's usually a place that I've never been before. And I want to go there, and I want to experience what it has to offer. So I don't just want to go to a conference and be straddled, 8 to 5 in a hotel conference room.
In the outdoor world, there's basically two organizations. There's the Outdoor Writers of America, then there's POMA, and I know the OWAA has been around many, many years before POMA
you went to all those, didn't you?
Well, I didn't go to all of them, but I mean, way back when, I know that one of the most popular OWAA conferences was at Kalispell.
Oh, is that right?
And I mean, there were people that would talk about that thing for years and years later.
And why were they talking about it?
Well, I think it was because of just the beauty, the location, everything else. But, and I may be wrong about this, but I just sensed that back then, there seemed to be more dedication to, you would go to the conference and you would spend your time at the conference, but you would enjoy the scenery before and after.
Yeah.
But there was more of a dedication that you spent your time at the conference because, number one, you learned a lot of good stuff to increase your skills. But it was all the people that you really wanted to be around were there.
Right.
So you wanted to stay there. But now I'm sensing, listening to you talk, that there's more of a pull that, maybe the conference isn't quite as strong when you've got all this beauty around you. And I guess it almost makes me wonder, do people put less value on the conferences? Sure, they value the conference to a certain point, but the combination of the beauty of where it's at and the conference is such an attraction that once they get there, they're pulled in different directions, and they're maybe not really focused on why they're there in the first place.
Yeah, I could see that.
I don't know. I mean, I'm speculating. It just seems that, it just seems that back 30 years or more ago, when we didn't have all the social media and the technology and everything else, you went to these conferences once a year because that was your opportunity to mingle, to really socialize.
To see these people face to face, right.
Now, thanks to Facebook and everything else we've got, Twitter, everything else, you're able to mingle with these people, maybe not face to face, but you're doing it all year long.
Yeah.
And it isn't even necessary to get face to face anymore because you can rub shoulders with the people that you admire or that you learn from. And I'm not saying that these conferences are less important, but I don't know if they hold the same significance for everybody that they once did, because it used to be you would go to an annual conference. That was your one shot for that whole year
to make money,
really make money and to do things. Yeah. Now, with the way our world communicates, I just don't see that as.
And you know what? And editors aren't attending these conferences, so.
Yeah.
So your chance at making money, it's ancillary people. It's
and that's a very key point too, because it used to be you would go to these conferences, you would see the editor that you're sending all sorts of query letters to. It was important for them to see your face because they knew if you're at the conference, you've spent money, you're invested in the profession. So the next time a query came across their desk, they associated not just that name, but they remembered meeting a face at the conference.
Yeah.
And you might have been a step up on somebody else, and they may have taken a minute or two longer look at your query letter than they normally would have. And so I don't know. Everything evolves in life, and
I think these conferences are still useful. What I am seeing a trend is more of the pickup companies and sport utility companies are getting involved with the outdoor writers, because I see I'm pretty sure they're seeing the value in having outdoor writers talk about their vehicles in a rough and tumble hunting situation, and no one's out there reviewing them really like that. So that was really promising.
Well, I think that's always been there, though, because I remember going to a OWAA conference back in the 80s. I believe it was the late 80s, might have been early 90s, out in Bangor, Maine, where Ford had a big part. They had an obstacle course that people could go through and drive
cool.
the new trucks.
And that was Ford?
And that was Ford back then.
And they haven't been a part of either OWAA or POMA that I know of in the last 10 years. Now it's Ram, Nissan, Toyota, and this year, for the first time, Honda came out with their 4x4, with their, what do we call them now? You don't call them 4x4s. Four-wheelers. Whatever you call them. So that's what I get. Yeah, and but Ford hasn't been, I haven't seen Ford in years. That's interesting.
Right. Well, maybe, I can't speak for Ford, but maybe they feel they've established themselves as, and some of these other companies are still trying to break into the market more. I don't know. But, vehicles have been around at outdoor conferences for a lot of years, and it makes sense. They're big sponsors. They're selling.
Well, they have
something,
money,
selling something that's big money, so they can afford to be there.
Yeah.
It's a little different when you're selling a little trinket that sells the Sportsman for $10 or $15. You got to sell a lot of those trinkets to make enough money to afford to be a major sponsor. But if you're a Toyota or whoever you may be, you only have to sell a few pickups and you can afford to, show up. But that's interesting. I mean, I didn't go this year for various reasons. We tried to look at how we would parlay it into a family trip, and it
would have been a good family trip, I think.
I think it's hard, though, it's challenging, because if you want to go to the conference for however many days, your family's got to have something to do, and it just, the logistics of it, where it was at, just didn't make sense. We would have to do everything we wanted to do, we'd be gone for too many days. And then we also have the challenges of my wife, where she works. Although she earns about 6 weeks of vacation a year, she's only allowed to take 1 week in the summer because of short staffing. She works in the healthcare system. So, you have different challenges like that. But, well, in terms of the conference itself, Michelle, what did you have? Did you attend some good continuing education? Did you learn some good information?
Yeah, I think the highlight was, and he's one of my clients. Shane Mahoney was there, and he's the CEO of Conservation Visions, and he's a big proponent of talking about conservation, and not just, you hear the words hunters or conservationists. It's not just that. He's very concerned about animal welfare and how wildlife is treated, and if you're a hunter or not a hunter or any of that. So he was on a panel with a few other people talking about just really kind of trying to embrace this culture that we are all in as hunters and conservationists, and how do we speak to the media, and how do we talk to people, and what information do we give them, and giving examples of past things that have worked, and then after that panel, they all broke up into groups. Each of the speakers had a table. And I was a moderator at one of the tables, or a record keeper, actually. I was actually taking notes. But I had my podcasting equipment with me, so I did record Shane at the table, too, and it was very interesting. So people were able to go to each table for like 20 minutes and really have a one-on-one with each of the panelists. So that was really cool.
How many writers do you think showed up at the conference?
I think they had about 200 registered. Of that I believe were hardcore writers. It's less than 20, I think, that will actually take something from the conference and do something with it. That's how small it's gotten.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big departure from what it used to be. I mean, obviously we're talking two different organizations here, and POMA has been growing for what have they been around now? A dozen years?
Their 11th year. This was their 11th year.
so they're still growing, and it's not fair to make the exact comparisons, but even with the OWAA, I don't think they get conferences like they used to. I remember my first one was down in Des Moines, Iowa, and they were 800 to 900 members.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you consider that those 800 to 900 members, a lot of them brought their spouses.
It's a big group.
It was a big group of people that would be at these conferences, and it isn't that way anymore.
No.
People just don't have the same sense of urgency that they have to go to these. But what do you think, Michelle, you get the value of the conference? Do you think it's the information you learn or the people that you network with? If you were to break it down, how do you, when you walk away from that conference, is it 40% the information that you learned is brand new and 60% the networking, or how do you break down that value?
I think it'd be more like 70% networking for me, and because these are the people that I'll see at SHOT Show, I'll see at the NRA show, and then I see them again at the POMA conference, or it's even, and I'm talking more like corporate members when I say that. So it's potential business opportunities for me. And then when it comes to the writers, I usually only see them once a year, but it's definitely something like for me, I can touch them and call on them, to help write about my clients or whatever it may be. So it's definitely networking for me, because the sessions, the sessions are geared for writers on how to make more money or something along being an outdoor writer. So for me, they don't really pertain to me. Yeah.
I guess I'm also curious about the conference itself in terms of, I'm not sure how to say this, but years ago, the conferences were really geared towards the sessions where you could go to different things and learn, and they'd have speakers. And is that pretty much still how they do it? They're bringing in some pretty well-known people in there.
I wouldn't call it well-known. There's no budget here, really.
Or are they using people from within the group, from in the membership? Because,
there's part that.
It used to be these conferences would bring in people from the outside to give new perspectives. And now I wonder if more or less to just do a budget, if it's more learning from each other, which, don't get me wrong, it can be great too, but sometimes just having a fresh new perspective and learning on something can, invigorate the profession.
Yeah. No, they did. There was definitely people who were not a part of our society, culture, industry, if you that they brought in. I don't know if they pay those people a speaking fee or whatnot. But then but I would say that was probably 30%, and then 70% was our own people.
Well, I'm going to put you on the spot here as a new board member.
Oh,
what do you think the future is of the outdoor writing groups? Is it looking positive, or have we got our work cut out for us to keep things?
Well, I think there will always be a reason for POMA and OWAA. I think it's silly to have two organizations, to be frank with you. But it is what it is for right now, and I don't see that changing ever. OWAA is definitely turning into more of a, people like to call a green outdoor writer group, where they like to call POMA more the hook and bullet. So maybe OWAA will continue evolving that way, but...
What are you finding, that there are a lot of members of both, or are people gravitating toward one?
There used to be when POMA, I think when that first split happened, 11 years ago. I was a member for both for several years, but now I'm a member of POMA, and I think a lot of people are just choosing one or the other. Now, corporate members aren't necessarily that way. Corporate members are definitely partaking in both, which is smart.
So, did you guys have a board meeting out there? Or?
They did, but I already had my flight scheduled, so my flight came in after the board meeting. So. But I learned that because I wasn't there, I was called upon to do some things. So
okay, that's usually what happens. Yeah. Well, I was just curious if what you could share with us in terms of the direction of where things are going. Do we know where the conference is at next year?
No, they were still voting on that. So,
okay.
Yeah. So I'll let you know. But, I think there's always value in attending these conferences. If you can afford it, because I know some people that are even consultants like myself who will not attend a conference like this unless a client of theirs pays their way, and not only pays their way, but then pays for their time. Well, that can get pretty expensive as a client. If you think of it, if you're a business and you're going to send an employee, I guess it's the same thing. But for me, it's like, look, I find it to be a very valuable part of my yearly business plan. I do get business out of it. It's important for me to be there.
Okay, let me ask you this. This is networking is a big part of your attendance at the conference, but you go to different things where you network. Do you get greater value at an outdoor writer conference like you were just at, or the SHOT Show, or the NRA show?
Right.
I mean, those are all also good networking opportunities, right. And I'm just curious that if somebody has to pick and choose, yes, they could go to a writer conference and it's in an area where there's great scenery, or they can go to the SHOT Show where they can have access to all the latest, greatest toys that are in the outdoors world and still hobnob with the people they need to do it. Or they can go to an NRA show and
right.
Probably not, probably accomplish a lot of the same things. I mean, to me, there's a lot of opportunities out there that maybe weren't 30 years ago.
Yeah, that's true. I think, SHOT Show will always be the creme de la creme. And if you can afford to stay in Vegas and get your booty out to SHOT Show, I highly recommend it, because you will see the majority of the people that you want to see at SHOT Show. However, they will not have time to see you.
Right. That is one of the other downfalls. I mean,
you can see them, but you won't be able to actually talk to them.
And are you talking about people that are vendors in the exhibiting, or are you talking about people that are just too busy, even if they're writers and they've got a schedule that's all filled up?
Both. If you're trying to see an editor, or if you don't have appointments pre-planned, I mean, we've talked about this for SHOT Show. If you don't have appointments pre-planned with people, I mean, it can just be forget it. And even at the NRA show, like I always like to go to the NRA show because I say it's very much like SHOT Show, only a smaller version, and people are much more relaxed. But this year when I went to the NRA show, it was crazy. Trump Jr. was in the aisle speaking with vendors, and it was crowded, and you couldn't get through. I tried to visit one of my a former client of mine just to say hi. His booth was just I couldn't. All he could do was just say hi to one another, and he had people stacked up trying to talk to him. I couldn't even be like, do you want to work together again? I couldn't even do that.
Well, I mean, was it the venue? Everybody was in tight quarters, or is it just that packed?
It was just that packed.
Okay.
It was just that packed. Yeah, it was a very good NRA show. So, or you go to an outdoor writers conference where it's going to be less people, but definitely you have more time to actually have a true conversation with them. And you'll have more than one opportunity. Like I saw people 2 or 3 times, and it's interesting because the first time you talk with someone, it's very superficial. What do you do? Oh, what do you do? This, very superficial. Second time you meet up with them, it's like, oh, when you said that you did this and this and this, so what do you think of that? And it gets like deeper, the second time you see him, and then the third time you see him, you're swapping, kid stories or, hunting stories and all that. So
how important do you think it is for some of your clients to see your face at all of those venues. I mean, psychologically, if people see you,
you exist.
they know that you're a serious part of the industry, because you don't just go to the SHOT Show, outdoor writer show.
I guess I've never thought of that. Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm thinking that they're going to walk away saying, Michelle is very serious about what she's doing, and she's part of this industry because she's everywhere that we have been at, and we've seen
I hope
her.
they think that, I guess.
Well, no, but I mean, don't you think that plays maybe subconsciously some sort of a role in terms of these people? They know that.
I think it's that, like I said, that whole thing of you exist. If you're out of sight, you're out of mind. And all of my clients, some people who are consultants are very lucky that they get to see their clients every week, or they get to go into an office maybe or something like that because they work locally. My clients, I have an international client. Speaking of Canada, in a previous podcast. So, my clients are everywhere. So, I think it's, even though I do talk to them practically daily, I think that see and be seen is still very important. I don't know. That's a good question. I should ask one of my clients that.
Well, I guess I'm just curious, yes, see and be seen, but how long does it take? I mean, how often do you have to refresh somebody's memory that you exist? I mean, you're saying you're talking to people daily.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we're talking about 3 shows that if you only saw those people and talked to them, 3 times a year and maybe a few phone calls here and there, are they going to forget you the rest of the time because that's not often enough?
Yeah, I think if you're a consultant and you have clients, you have to find a way to be in front of their face.
You have to be a constant reminder.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we've talked about in the
If you want to get paid.
The promotional calendar industry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You do the same thing.
You for over 27 years, I've been in the promotional calendar industry, where we try and get customers to put their advertising message on a calendar and give them out to customers. Now, some people might say, hey, calendars, they're not what they used to be.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, here's something that's hanging on a wall. You're reminding that person, on average, a person looks at a calendar 4.3 times a day. They may not be focusing in exactly what the wording says every time they look at it, but they're reminding of that
subconsciously
of that the existence of that company, so that when that person or that company has services that the customer needs, hopefully, you're going to be at the top of the list because you're subconsciously in the mind. And I think in some ways that plays true, just reminding people who you are, what you do. And you can do that whether it's a newsletter. You could send out a newsletter to all your customers and contacts and do it.
Which I thought about doing, but it takes a lot of work.
Do it once a month or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think some people do that. I see some people doing that kind of stuff in the PR world on Facebook, where they'll have a little newsletter, send out stuff, and it seems like it's always great. It starts out with great intentions, but then it just kind of fizzles, and you never see it anymore.
Yeah.
And
that's how I feel I would be with my newsletter, so it's I don't even want to start, because I know I'm not
but see, I always thought you'd be different, Michelle.
I know. Yeah.
But that's really what it means, whether you're a writer, whatever you do, you have to keep your name out there. You have to be, when an editor says, we need something on this particular topic, and then they start thinking, well, who would be best to do it?
Yeah.
You want your name to be up there amongst the people that say, well, I know this person would do a good job with it, and it's all about keeping your name in front of people, and it's going to these events and that.
You got to find a way to, if this is your business, you got to find a way to attend these events, and I don't care what kind of event it is, but you need to stop making excuses up that it's too costly or whatever, because it's a tax write-off for number one. But I don't know how many of these events I've attended, and they just pay back in spades every time.
Well, I've always found that sometimes going to these things is a hassle.
Right.
You can convince yourself it's a lot of money, it's this or that.
You can convince yourself of anything, sure.
But once you get there and you start enjoying and experiencing, it's like, oh boy, am I glad I did this. I mean...
And it is what you make of it. Like if you don't put any effort into it and you want to half-ass it, then that's what you're going to get out of it. So that's the other thing too. Like if you're going to spend the money and you're going to spend the time, then do it right.
All right. So speaking of that, some of the people that were there, did you see people that just didn't look like they were...
Corporate members. Definitely, I saw corporate members who were, one of my blogger friends says, phone it in, where you phone something in. What were they doing?
They were just showing up?
They would show up for the happy hour, or they would show up for like a dinner, and then you wouldn't see them for the rest of the time. And some people are like, oh, I have so much work to do. I'm in my hotel room. Well, then you need to figure something out with your boss where, like, hey, if you're going to send me to this conference, then I need to be present and participatory, and I can't be sitting on a 2-hour conference call, or I can't be, you need to figure that out, because that's just a waste of time.
Yeah, that's too bad. That kind of stuff was happening.
Or they're out enjoying, they're out enjoying what the area has to offer, and they're just kind of saying, I'll see you guys at dinner.
Well,
which, I get that. That's what we were talking about before. I mean,
I've seen sponsors like that, which maybe will sponsor a dinner.
Yeah, and they just show up for their sponsored dinner, and then that's it.
But I wonder that kind of stuff has probably been going on forever too.
Yeah.
But that's a good point. I mean,
well, to me, it signals I don't really care. I don't really care. Like, it's fine that you are sponsoring and that you're actually, you're giving money to this organization because it's a sponsorship, and that, and then on top of that, you're feeding people. So you're spending a lot of money to get up on stage and have your video run and do your little spiel. But if I don't see you before that or after that, I find that whole dog and pony show you just did to be fake.
So what did you do at the conference that was the most fun? They still have a breakout day?
They do. They're talking about combining breakout day with where they call it POMA camps, with another breakout session they have inside. POMA camps is all done outside.
We should explain what breakout day is.
It's more because a lot of the corporate members have products that can only be used outside, like guns and shooting.
It's basically an opportunity to get outdoors rather than being in a building in a conference room.
So they're talking about combining those two, which I think is brilliant. And the other thing the executive director, Kevin Orthman, was saying was even having a day or half day of free time to accommodate what you and I were just talking about. Okay, we know people are going to go and enjoy what this area has to offer, so let's just build it in.
So they didn't They didn't have anything set up where you could do that now. I mean, some of the conferences I've used to have gone to, they had spouse tours and things. They had nothing for spouses to
No,
to
I
do?
think that's OWAA does a really good job.
Yeah,
with,
I mean that's
with
what I'm
spouse
talking
tours.
about.
Yeah,
Okay.
and POMA doesn't really do that. So,
All right. Well, let's take a break here, and we'll be back after this brief message.
This is the time of year to get out and cook out. So make your next meal sizzle with Camp Chef, the brand known for quality outdoor cooking. From camp stoves to cast iron, from smokers to grills, Camp Chef will change the way you cook outdoors. To eat like a king on your next adventure, go to campchef.com or visit your local sporting goods store and get cooking. Whether you're serving breakfast in the backcountry or barbecue on the back patio, savor the simplicity with Camp Chef. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
welcome back from our message from our sponsored Camp Chef. Love those guys. I saw them at the POMA conference. They were there.
What have they got that's new and exciting?
They have their Striker stove, which I think is a commercial that we were running there for people who camp out in the woods. So it's a great little stove, lots of butane that gets really hot, so you can cook stuff really quickly. And then
Now,
it's
is
very
that
compact.
is that a one burner
Yeah,
stove?
it's very compact.
And it takes like the little canister.
Yeah.
You know, that is an awesome stove. And it's reasonable too. I
Yes.
believe they sell for, I want to say around $25.
Yeah, we should Google it. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's something similar to that. If you're into the outdoors and you don't have something like that, seriously, it takes a nice little butane canister that I would say that butane canister is going to last. Oh, I bet it lasts cooking for an hour or so. I don't know. I've never really cooked all the way through, but you can
Right.
get several meals cooked from one canister. And, here it is. Doesn't take up hardly any room whatsoever. It's like a one-burner gas stove. It's portable. It comes in its own little carrying case. And so it can get banged around a little bit, and yet it still will be there and be reliable when you need it. So that's one thing that Camp Chef makes, and that you ought to check out.
And it only weighs 21 ounces, it says, not including the fuel.
Sure, yeah, I bet the fuel probably weighs almost as much as the stove itself. I mean, it's not something you would take backpacking with you. It's a little bit.
They do actually.
Oh,
They say
do they?
yeah. It says it's ideal for compact, lightweight cooking. Cooking on or off the trail. Heat ring technology creates larger surface area that captures and transfers heat for a rapid boil. And it was picked for Peterson's Hunting Editor's Choice this year.
Okay. Well, the one I'm thinking of, it's not real compact. I don't know if you were going ultra like back camping. It's not one of those. Is that? Okay, I see Michelle showing me a picture. We're talking about two different stoves here then, because Camp Chef has an original one that.
But this is their new one, Striker.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the original one's called. And that one might be a little bit more money, but that one is definitely like some of the other ones that are out there, like I hate to say competitors, but like the Jet Boil and some of those other types where they're the canister's basically underneath it and the burner parts on top.
Oh, it's cool. And they have different levels, like different, depending on what you want to spend. So
Sure.
anyway, one thing I wanted to talk about before we wrap up today was the My Outdoor TV app that was launched in June by Outdoor Sportsman Group, which is Outdoor Channel, Sportsman Channel, World Fishing Network. And one of the things that the Outdoor Sportsman Group was they set up a special code with all of its TV shows that are part of this app. So essentially what it is you can download special episodes, all like past seasons of your favorite TV shows. You can physically download them into your phone or into your iPad. And then when you're out in the tree stand or on the water, when you don't have Wi-Fi, you can watch all those shows. So it's kind of cool. So anyway, there's a special code that you can use because the app is normally $9.99 a month. But for the first month, if you use the code Winchester or the code Sporting Chef, you'll get it for 99 cents for the first month. So heck, try it out. And if you stay on for 3 months with this app, you'll get a free issue of Intermediate Outdoor magazine. So like Peterson's Hunting, I was just suggesting, waterfowl, wildfowl.
So this is a subscription. It's not a one-time purchase.
Right. So it's a monthly fee app.
So you download the app and it doesn't cost anything, but you have to basically subscribe in order for it to be
If you want to watch
functional.
If you want to watch the shows or download the shows to your phone. Yeah.
And when did that launch?
It actually launched June 1st. So it's kind of been a soft launch. They're letting, because each producer has their own special code, so they're kind of letting each producer get out there and promote it.
So is it just for watching videos, or are there other interactive stuff that you can do in there?
Scott Layseth, who has the Sporting Chef TV show, who's one of my clients, he actually created a bunch of unique cooking tips for it too. So if you're a wild game cook or a wannabe wild game chef, he created a lot of unique videos in there, just how-tos, tips, stuff like that, just for the app, so that you can't find it anyplace else. And they talked about that you're going to see more of that, more exclusive content, of course, because that's what sets it apart from just going to YouTube, for example. But I think the biggest selling point is the fact that you can download it into your
So are there any
device.
video elements that you can see on the app that you can't see on TV, like outtakes or anything like that? I mean,
I think you'll see that more, and they even talked about doing exclusive series just for the app. They talked about doing some live things with the app, so I think you'll see that in the future.
Okay.
But yeah, go to myoutdoortv.com, enter the code Winchester or the code Sporting Chef, and you'll get the first month for 99 cents.
Okay. Hey, I seen there's a show. What is it called? Till Death Do Us Part.
Oh yeah, with Julie and Danielle Lee. Yeah.
Yeah. What's that all about?
Yeah. Well, speaking of online trends, that's on Carbon TV, which is just online right now, and that's their new exclusive online hunting show that they just launched here at the beginning of July. So it's did you watch the first episode yet?
No, I haven't. But so how does the Carbon TV work? I mean, is this a paid thing where you have to pay to?
Some of it is, some of it isn't. So they're online. I don't think they have an app. I don't know. I should look at that.
So it is possible to be looking at videos and that without subscription.
YouTube.
Right.
I mean, a lot of TV shows upload all their past seasons to YouTube.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, because, well, there's contracts with the networks where you have to wait a certain amount of time. They own the exclusivity for that particular episode or season or whatever for a certain amount of time. But then after that, it's back to you again.
So when they do that, do they leave the commercials embedded inside there, or what?
No, because...
I suppose YouTube doesn't allow that, or?
Well, no, I don't know, but I think more maybe because sponsors change and what the sponsor wants to promote changes so much. So if you have a series that's 5 years old.
So what would motivate somebody to put that on YouTube then?
If I'm a TV show?
Yeah.
Oh, because you can still make money with it by monetizing it through Google AdSense.
All right,
so Google AdSense will throw up ads on your video, and you can still make money that way. So, yeah, definitely. Definitely throw it up there.
So it's fair to say that an old TV show really never dies.
Yes. Yeah, and it's amazing, like, I was listening to a podcast the other day talking about Facebook and YouTube, and we know, they're two very different entities. One does not own the other. That's why when you upload video that's a YouTube video, or a link, I should say, into Facebook, it doesn't do as well in the Facebook algorithm as if you just uploaded that raw footage directly into Facebook. It will do better in Facebook. But I was listening to a podcast the other day that was talking about the one thing that YouTube has going for it, though, is people go to YouTube and they type in their search terms specifically for, like, because they want to watch a video. Like, it's very deliberate, versus Facebook, you could be scrolling through your feed and all of a sudden a video pops up that might catch your eye. It's very distractive. So you're not going to Facebook to look for videos.
Right.
They're there to distract you, and hopefully you click on it and, you watch it. Whereas you go to YouTube, you're there deliberately, which is, I think, is an interesting kind of fact.
I know this doesn't necessarily relate to what we're talking about, the outdoors and that, but one of the things, speaking of Facebook videos, that seems to be a new trend, and I'm sure most people have seen it, are these fast-paced recipe videos.
Oh, yeah.
Where people are showing the ingredients going in quick and
the camera, the point of view camera is like down on the cutting
right
table.
Above, and it's like, rather than watching a video where it might show how to cook something in 5 or 10 minutes, you're seeing something in basically 45 seconds.
Yeah. And they do really well.
Yeah.
They do really well. Because we did some for Scott, the Sporting Chef. Engagement rates are extremely high on those videos.
But it makes me wonder if there isn't other ways you could do that, and it wouldn't have to necessarily be cooking. But just, we're talking about trying to find ways to enjoy the outdoors, or to enjoy hunting, or to try and get people into the outdoors. it just makes me wonder if people were exposed to a quick snippet of how much fun it could be,
Right.
rather than watching a video or a show that's
For 30
minutes, where people just maybe aren't going to take the time, but all of a sudden, if something scrolled up on Facebook and they said, wow, that looks like fun,
Yeah.
and they check it out, and whether it's, it could be going on a charter fishing trip or whatever,
And I think that's what like Carbon TV has going for it, is that like Julie and Daniel Lee's show was only like 14, 15 minutes long. So definitely that time of reference, your attention span, they're definitely bringing it down, and they're telling a whole story. Their first episode was a turkey hunt, and they're still telling a whole story within 15 minutes.
Well, that kind of leads me into this topic here in Minnesota. They're talking about putting together some sort of a workshop or a seminar? What exactly is it called, Michelle?
Yeah, let me look it up here. So they're, I guess there's a name for it, but just Hunter Recruitment Conference here, August 26th and 27th.
But it's not just hunting, is it? I thought it was also...
anglers, hunters and anglers.
Yeah.
Yep, you're right. Yeah.
And basically, I think it's the Minnesota DNR's attempt to bring together a bunch of policymakers and interested citizens in that to brainstorm ideas and how we can reverse these trends where people are sort of distracted. They're getting into doing this activity more so than some of the activities that we think they should take a greater look at.
Here from the press release, it says in the 1960s and 70s, about 40% of Minnesotans aged 16 and older purchased a fishing license. Beginning in the 80s, that number began to decline. Now, 27% of Minnesota residents aged 16 and older fish, and 12% hunt, down between 4 and 8% from the 70s.
Yeah, I mean, that's a disturbing trend, and it's certainly something that needs to be addressed.
So it's cool they're putting this together. It says presentations from national experts, reflections from local organizations, and breakout sessions to address common challenges are also scheduled.
I think it really goes to show that what has worked in the past doesn't always work now. And I think that's where it takes folks that are, innovative, forward-thinking to say, you know what, if we want to promote the outdoors, namely hunting and fishing, to kids that are part of a totally different generation than what we grew up in, we've got to approach this a little differently, and I think it's
I think it'd
smart.
be cool. I mean, it's like I said, it's August 26th and 27th. It's at the Earl Brown Center in Brooklyn Center. You have to register. But it says members of the public involved or interested in preserving Minnesota's outdoor heritage are encouraged to attend. So, of course, you and I have already discussed this about us attending. It is my 13th wedding anniversary weekend, so I don't know.
So, yeah, what does that mean?
I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see how dedicated the outdoors
to recruitment and retention, I am. Yeah.
But I mean,
I'm happy to see that, though.
It's interesting. I mean, I think I think we've got to do some things differently.
Yeah.
It's hard to, there's a lot of distractions out there for youth now, whether it be athletics or what is it now, Pokemon Go?
Oh, the Pokemon Go. Yeah.
I mean,
it's
my goodness,
ridiculous.
you have no way of determining what type of a distraction there could be. But you look at something like the Pokemon Go. I mean, there are businesses that are actually benefiting from this. They're getting more people to come in, and I guess as a business you can even
be a part of it. That's cool.
And it makes me wonder, if that isn't where, as much as I'm sure some people would hate to admit, that we have to go in the outdoors, because if you could create something like an app that would get people interested to go out and explore things in the outdoors, it's a start at least if you can get them out of the house. It's a challenge now just to get kids outside the house in the summertime.
Right.
If they don't have a bunch of friends to play with, getting them away from video games or it's a challenge. And I think in some ways, those of us that are in the outdoors that want to see greater participation, maybe we need to embrace technology and incorporate it into the outdoors. I know it sounds strange to do that because you think you go outdoors to get away from, those type of things. But that's what we did, and that's how we view it. That's maybe not how today's generation looks at it. They don't feel secure if they don't have their phone.
That's true.
I know when we were up in northern Minnesota here recently, it was just a weird feeling to go into an area where, we don't have cell coverage.
You don't have bars, yeah.
We can't access the internet. If something happened, we couldn't just make a phone call and call somebody.
It's a weird feeling.
It's a weird feeling, and it's.
And to think 10 years ago, that's how it was. I mean, and now
But
it's like that security blanket.
We remember our generation, as older adults, remember when it never used to be that way anyway. You'd go outdoors and you were on your own.
Yeah, what happened.
But today's kids have never experienced that.
Yeah.
They've always had a cell phone in their pocket. They can call mom or dad if they are in trouble or if anything help was needed. And it's a totally different sense of insecurity when you lose your phone. And maybe it's time that if we want to promote the outdoors, we have to do a better job finding ways to embrace that, even though it seems counterproductive to what we're trying to accomplish if you're an older adult.
I agree. All right.
Well, we'll consider going to that conference, and if we do, we'll
try and podcast. Yeah.
Report back or maybe if we'll go, we might even podcast from the conference.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
See if they'll allow us back after we interviewed our director.
Yeah, that's very true. Well, we better wrap it up here for today. I thank all of our listeners for joining us and hope to be back again very soon.
Cheers.